Hi, Reddit. I never thought I'd be one of those people writing here, but here I am. If you'd asked me even a year ago, I would have told you I had a pretty good life. I'm 32, married to a man I thought was my soulmate, and we have a 4-year-old son together. We'd been married for 7 years. My husband works on rotation. That's what he always called it. 3 months away working in some remote area, then he'd come back home for a few weeks. It wasn't ideal, but I trusted him. Everyone in our town knew him as a hard-working guy, and I honestly thought he was killing himself just to give us a comfortable life. Looking back, I see the little cracks. He was always a bit too protective of his phone. He'd get strangely irritated if I asked too many questions about work. His stories about his colleagues and the job were always vague. But I brushed it off. I told myself, that's just how he is. For 6 years, I believed the story. 6 years. And then one stupid mistake on his part, literally one, turned my entire world upside down. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning. He had just left for work a few days before, so I wasn't expecting much contact. Usually he'd send quick texts during his breaks, sometimes call before bed. That day, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. At first, I thought it was mine. But no, it was his. Now, this is where it gets strange. He normally never leaves his phone behind. Ever. But this one looked different. No case, slightly older model. I assumed it was his work phone at first. Out of curiosity, and honestly, because he'd been acting weird the last time he was home, I picked it up. The screen lit up with a message preview. "Good morning, love. Kids are asking when you'll be back. Don't forget we have Lila's doctor appointment Friday." I froze. Kids? Lila? Who the hell is Lila? My stomach dropped. I opened the messages. There were hundreds. Pictures, voice notes, texts full of love, inside jokes, complaints about money, even arguments about when he'll finally spend more time with them. There was a little boy in the pictures, around 5, and a toddler girl with his exact eyes. It felt like I was suffocating. I didn't even know whether to scream, cry, or laugh at how absurd it all was. For 6 years, while I thought he was working rotations, he was living another life, another family. And the worst part? She had no idea I existed either. I didn't wait. I couldn't. The moment he called me that evening from his other phone, pretending to be at the camp, I snapped. I asked him straight out, "Who is Lila?" There was silence. Not the shocked, guilty kind you'd expect. More like calculating silence. Then he laughed. This bitter, sharp laugh I'd never heard before. "You went through my stuff, didn't you? God, you're pathetic." Not an apology. Not confusion. Just straight up attack. I screamed at him, told him I'd seen the photos, the kids, the texts. He tried spinning stories so fast it made my head spin. First, he said it was just a friend whose husband had left her, and he was helping out. When I didn't buy it, he flipped to anger. "She gives me peace, unlike you. Do you know how exhausting it is to come home to your nagging?" I couldn't even process the cruelty. This was the man I cooked for, waited for, built a family with. Then came the worst part. He said, with this cold, flat tone, "I have a life there, and a life here. It worked fine until you decided to snoop." Like I was the problem. Like I ruined his perfect little scam. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't some one-time affair. This wasn't even about love. This man was living 2 parallel lives, shamelessly lying to both women, to 3 kids, for 6 straight years. And the terrifying part? He didn't seem sorry at all. The fight ended with him hanging up on me. I sat in the kitchen for hours, staring at that phone like it was some cursed object. Every ping, every photo I scrolled through was like a dagger. I couldn't stop looking. There he was, at a little boy's birthday party, grinning ear to ear, holding a cake. There he was rocking a baby girl to sleep, kissing her forehead. The man who was working while I was putting our son to bed alone was out there living a whole other life. I started crying so hard I scared my own little boy. He came up to me, tugging at my shirt. "Mama, what's wrong?" What do you even say to that? How do you explain that his daddy isn't who we thought he was? That his father comes home with gifts after 3 months, not from a job, but from another home? I broke down on the bathroom floor that night, hugging myself, rocking back and forth like some cliche movie scene. But it wasn't a movie. It was my marriage, my life. And suddenly, it felt like none of it was real. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that every smile, every "I miss you" text, every story about his hard shifts, every single kiss goodbye had been a performance. 6 years of being lied to so smoothly, I never even saw it coming. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, holding her children, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. 3 days later, he showed up at the house. No warning, no call, just barged in like he still owned the place. He smelled of cologne I'd never smelled on him before, wearing a shirt I didn't recognize. I was shaking, but I had rehearsed what I'd say. I had the phone in my hand, ready to shove the evidence in his face. But before I could even open my mouth, he sneered. "So, what's the plan, huh? You gonna cry and make me the villain?" Like he wasn't already the villain. I asked him if he'd been planning to tell me. He smirked. Why would I ruin a system that works? You get your life, she gets hers. Everybody's happy. I thought I'd explode. I screamed at him about the kids, about how he was ripping apart not one but two families. He just shrugged. "Kids are resilient. They'll be fine. You'll get over it." Then he dropped the bomb. "I'm not leaving them. If you can't handle it, that's on you." That was it. No begging, no apology, no shame. He was choosing them. The rotation job had never existed. It was just his schedule to split time between us like some sick double-life project. I threw his things out on the porch that night. Clothes, tools, everything. My neighbors definitely heard the shouting. My son cried himself to sleep while I sat on the floor of his room, numb. When the door finally slammed behind him, I knew he was walking straight back to them. And for the first time, I realized she had no idea. The first week after he left was a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't even take a full breath without my chest tightening. Everywhere I looked, I saw him. His jacket still hung by the door, his razor still in the bathroom. My son kept asking, "When's Daddy coming back from work?" That question broke me every single time. I tried to keep it together for my boy, but I'd find myself crying silently in the kitchen at night. I felt humiliated, discarded, and worst of all, replaceable. He had a whole other family waiting with open arms, while I was here trying to explain to a 4-year-old why Daddy wasn't around. Friends tried to comfort me, saying things like, "At least you found out now," or "You're better off without him." Maybe they were right, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like I'd been robbed of 6 years of my life. 6 years of love, loyalty, and trust, poured into a man who was splitting himself between two homes like it was nothing. The lowest moment came one night when I actually caught myself thinking, what if I just never found the phone? At least then, I'd still have my happy illusion. That thought scared me, because I realized I was mourning a life that had never actually existed. And underneath all of that pain, one thought kept eating at me. She doesn't know. She's living the same lie I was. Her kids are living the same lie mine is. And slowly, that thought started turning into a plan. For days, I obsessed over it. Should I tell her? Should I let her live in her illusion the way I had? Maybe ignorance was kinder. But then I'd remember those pictures, her smiling at him like I once did, their little boy hugging his leg, that baby girl clinging to him. They deserved the truth. The problem was, I didn't know how to reach her. He was careful. Different phone, different social media accounts I had never seen. But one night, scrolling through that second phone, I noticed something. A group chat from her mom, with birthday wishes for their daughter. And attached was a family photo, with a Facebook tag. My heart pounded as I clicked through. There she was, his other wife. Her page was public enough that I saw everything. Their outings, family dinners, holidays where he'd sworn he was working. It was like looking in a mirror, but from a parallel universe. I stared at her profile for hours before I finally gathered the courage to message, "Hi, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk about husband's name." I half expected her to block me or call me crazy, but she didn't. She replied within minutes, "What do you mean? Who are you?" My hands shook as I typed, "I'm his wife, and we have a 4-year-old son together." Silence. Then, "Impossible. He's with me. He's been with me for years." And just like that, I knew her world was about to shatter the same way mine had. I didn't want to just throw accusations at her. I knew if I were in her place, I'd need proof. So I started sending screenshots. The texts, the photos of him with our son, even selfies we'd taken just weeks before when he was back from rotation. Her typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she sent me one shaky line. "Oh my God. He told me he worked rotations. That's why he's gone every few months." My stomach turned. The exact same lie. I told her everything. The timeline. How he split himself between us. How he had been doing this for 6 years. At first she was defensive, saying things like, "Maybe you misunderstood," or "Maybe he left you already and didn't tell me." But then I sent her the marriage certificate photo from my documents drawer. Our son's birth certificate with his name on it. She went quiet for a long time. When she finally replied, it wasn't anger. It was heartbreak. "He was at our daughter's birthday last weekend. He kissed me goodnight. He tucked our son in. And now you're telling me the whole time he had you too?" I could almost feel her tears through the screen. That's when I realized she wasn't my enemy. She was me, just living on the other side of his lie. We talked for hours that night. We pieced together his schedule like detectives, realizing how neatly he'd built this double life. And for the first time, she and I weren't just two strangers. We were allies. And together, we decided he wasn't going to keep fooling either of us anymore. It didn't take long before the opportunity presented itself. She told me he was coming back to her house in 2 days, supposedly after another rotation. We agreed. That's when we'd confront him. I drove over there with my son, my stomach flipping the entire way. When I pulled up, I saw her standing outside with her kids, nervous but determined. We didn't even have to say anything. The look we gave each other said it all. We're in this together. When he arrived, he looked completely blindsided. His first reaction wasn't guilt or shame. It was fury. "What the hell is this?" he barked, glaring between us like we were the ones betraying him. I stepped forward and shoved his other phone at him. "Game's over. We know everything." Her voice shook, but she stood tall beside me. "You've been lying to both of us, to all of our kids, for 6 years. And do you know what he did?" He actually laughed, like some villain in a bad movie. "You two think you're so smart, but you needed me. You still need me. What are you going to do without me?" That laugh, that arrogance, flipped a switch in both of us. Neither of us cried. Neither begged. We told him, right then and there, that we were done. both of us. And for the first time, I saw something flash across his face that I hadn't seen before. Fear. After that showdown, everything started unraveling for him. He tried his usual tricks, twisting words, gaslighting, raising his voice. But the difference now was that he wasn't playing two isolated women anymore. We were united, comparing notes, backing each other up. When he told her, "She's just bitter I left her," I shot back with proof of our marriage license, photos from last month, even his messages promising me, "We'll have another baby soon." Her face hardened. She wasn't buying his performance anymore. When he turned to me and sneered, "You're crazy. She knows where my loyalty is." She showed me pictures of him at their family vacation 2 weeks earlier, grinning with their kids. My stomach turned, but it also gave me strength. His lies had nowhere left to land. And then came the cherry on top. She pulled out her phone and showed me something I hadn't seen yet. A thread of messages to another woman. Not me, not her, someone else. Flirty texts, late-night calls. My jaw dropped. It wasn't 2 families. It was 3. That was the moment the room went cold. Both of us stared at him, stunned into silence. He didn't even deny it, just smirked and muttered, "So what? Men have needs." I think that was the exact second he lost everything. Not just me, not just her, but whatever scrap of respect either of us might have had left for him. He stormed out that night, slamming the door so hard the kids started crying. But instead of chasing after him, both of us sat down at the kitchen table together, holding our children close, realizing something shocking. We didn't need him. Not anymore. The next few weeks were surreal. Both of us were trying to process everything while taking care of our children, who were blissfully unaware of most of what had happened but could sense the tension. Sleep was erratic, meals were rushed, and tears were frequent. But slowly, we started to find a rhythm. We kept in touch constantly, checking in, sharing updates, even sending each other pictures of the kids. It felt strange at first, being allies with the other woman, but we quickly realized it was the only sane way to handle the chaos he had created. For my son, I explained that Daddy made some very bad choices and that he was no longer living with us. I didn't go into the messy details, just enough for him to understand why Daddy wouldn't be around for a while. She did the same for her children. It wasn't easy, but for the first time in years, we were honest. Not with him, but with ourselves and our kids. Even more surprisingly, we started to plan practical steps together. School schedules, shared custody for visits if he ever tried to see the kids, and setting boundaries to protect ourselves from his manipulations. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Control. I wasn't at the mercy of his lies anymore. Healing was slow. Some days, I'd wake up and the rage would hit me all over again. Other days, the sadness would crush me. But over time, I realized that the anger wasn't helping me. It was keeping me stuck in his shadow. I started therapy, something I'd always dismissed before. Talking to a professional helped me untangle the mess of emotions: betrayal, humiliation, grief, and guilt. I realized none of this was my fault. I had loved, trusted, and supported someone who was inherently dishonest. That's on him, not me. I also leaned heavily on friends and family, and yes, even her, my unexpected ally. Sharing the burden made it feel lighter. We laughed sometimes, at the absurdity of his rotations, at the unbelievable audacity of a man who thought he could juggle 2 entire families without consequences. Slowly, I began to allow myself to hope again, to imagine a life where my son and I were safe, happy, and free from lies. I started dating myself, exploring hobbies I'd abandoned, and focusing on what truly mattered: rebuilding trust, not with him, but with me. It wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. But every day, the weight of his betrayal became a little lighter, replaced with the quiet determination to reclaim my life. After the dust settled, life felt different, cleaner, somehow. My son and I settled into a new routine, one that didn't include his father's constant lies and manipulation. Bedtime became our special time again, filled with stories, laughter, and cuddles, not quiet tears while waiting for someone who would never fully show up. I focused on creating stability for him. We started weekend adventures, small trips to the park, and even a little ritual of baking cookies together on Sundays. Each smile, each giggle, felt like a small victory, proof that life could still be beautiful despite the chaos he left behind. I also began building my independence, financially, emotionally, and socially. I reconnected with friends I had neglected, joined a local parenting group, and even started considering long-term plans for our future that didn't involve him at all. And while the pain never completely disappeared, I learned something crucial. My son and I could thrive without him. The bond we shared, honest and unwavering, became stronger than any lie he could spin. Looking back, I've realized just how deceptive people can be when they're determined to protect their own selfish desires. 6 years of lies, 2 families, 3 kids caught in the middle. And yet, here I am, still standing. The biggest lesson? Trust is fragile, but so is resilience. I learned to pay attention to small red flags, the secretive phone, the vague explanations, the defensiveness, because sometimes your gut knows before your mind does. I also learned that betrayal doesn't define me. It defines him, and the more I focused on what he did, the more power I gave him. Letting go, sharing the truth with the second woman, and reclaiming my life stripped him of that power. And finally, I learned the importance of honesty. My son deserves a mother who lives in reality, not in a fantasy crafted by a liar. She deserves a life free from deception, too. And I deserve a life where I can trust again, slowly but surely. It's a messy, painful, and shocking journey, but you can come out stronger on the other side. If you're reading this and suspect something is off, trust yourself. Pay attention to those gut feelings, even if it feels uncomfortable. Secrets have a way of slipping through, and the longer you ignore them, the harder it becomes to untangle the truth. Don't blame yourself for someone else's lies. Being betrayed doesn't mean you weren't enough. It means they weren't honest, and that's on them. Surround yourself with people who see your worth, and don't be afraid to lean on them when everything feels like it's collapsing. Finally, remember this: you can survive, you can rebuild, reclaim your life, and protect those you love most. My son and I are living proof that even after the deepest betrayal, trust, love, and happiness are possible again, just in a new, stronger form. To anyone going through this, you're not alone. And one day, you'll look back and see just how far you've come.